In 1897, Juventus were founded as a sport club by 13 pupils from Massimo di Azeglio Lyceum School in Turin. Among them were the two brothers Enrico and Eugenio Canfari, with the former later becoming Juventus' first ever president and the latter becoming an early Italian sport director. Juventus was renamed as Football Club Juventus 2 years later, and in the 1900 the club joined the Italian Championship. In 1904, businessman Adjmund Marsan revived the finances of Football Club Juventus and was responsible for the transfer of the training ground from Piazza di Armi to a much better ground in the Velodrome Umberto. During the early period of the club, Juventus didn't used to wear the famous black and white jersey. In fact, their first kit was pink and black. But in the 1905, they changed it to black and white, which was inspired by English side Notts County. In 1905, Juventus won their first league title while playing at the Velodrome Umberto. In 1906, the club experienced quite a bit of an internal conflict after some staff members considered moving out of Turin. The then club president Alfred Dick wasn't happy with this and left to some prominent players to create FBC Torino, thereby creating the Derby dell'Amore. This period was not a good one for Juventus, as they spent much of this period in rebuilding the club after the split and surviving the First World War. In 1923, the owner of the Fabbrica Italiana Automobili Torino company, abbreviated as Fiat, Edoardo Agnelli, gained control of the club and built a new stadium. This went a long way in helping the club to win its second Scudetto in the 1925-26 season, after beating Alba Roma with a huge aggregate score of 12-1, with the Croatian striker Antonio Vojak playing a huge role in their success. In the 1930s, Juventus soon established itself as a dominant force within Italian football and became the country's first professional club, as they went on to win a record of 5 consecutive Italian championships, 4 of which came under the management of Carlo Cassano, with several players from his squad forming a huge part of the Italian national team during the Vittorio Pozzo era, including the 1934 FIFA World Cup squad. Juventus moved to the Stadio Comunale, but for the rest of the 1930s and the majority of the 1940s, they were unable to rediscover that magic or swagger that made them so dominant for much of the 1920s. Gianni Agnelli was appointed as the honorary president after the Second World War. In the 1949-50 and the 1951-52 seasons, the club added 2 more league titles to its name. During the 1957-58 season, 2 strikers in the form of Welshman John Charles and Italian-Argentine Omar Sivori were brought into the club. In that same season, Juventus were awarded the Golden Star for sport excellence to wear on their shirts. The honor was given to them after becoming the first Italian side to win 10 league titles. And still in that same season, Omar Sivori became the club's first ever Ballon d'Or winner. The following season was equally as fruitful, as the club completed their first league and cup double by winning the SerieA and Coppa Italia. The then all-time top scorer at the club, Boniperti, retired in 1961, with the incredible goal-scoring record of 182 goals, a record which stood for 45 years. For the rest of the decade, the club won the league title just once, and was in the 1966-67 season. However, during the 1970s, Juventus were at it again, as they further solidified their commanding status in Italian football under former player Česimir Vyšpalek, as they won the 1971-72 and the 1972-73 Scudetto with key players such as Franco Cosio, Roberto Battega, and Jose Altanfini breaking through. They only won the league title twice for the rest of the decade, with defender Gaetano Sierra largely contributing to their success. Juventus, under the management of Giovanni Trapattoni, won the club's first major European title, the UEFA Cup in 1977, and continued the club's dominance into the early 1980s. In addition, many Italian players at Juventus under Trapattoni formed the backbone of the Italian national team, which at the time was managed by Enzo Bearzot, who carried them into the 1978 and 1982 World Cup and also the 1980 European Championship, with a lot of Juventus Italian players in his squad. Trapattoni and Juventus started the 1980s on a dominant note, winning the league title 3 more times by 1984. This now meant Juventus had won 20 Italian league titles and were rewarded with yet another golden star to their shirt after becoming the only Italian club to achieve this. During this period, Juventus players started to gain attention. And after a strong season for his club and an incredible contribution to Italy's 1982 World Cup triumph, where he was named the player of the tournament, Paolo Rossi won the European Footballer of the Year award. After Paolo Rossi, Michael Platini was also awarded the European Footballer of the Year award for 3 seasons in a row, in 1983, 84 and 85. In 1985, Juventus became the first club in the history of European football to win all 3 major UEFA competitions. However, the rest of the 1980s were not as successful for the club, in a period where Napoli and the 2 Milan clubs, Inter and AC Milan, won the Scudetto. In 1990, they moved to their new home, the Stadio delle Alpi, which was built for the 1990 FIFA World Cup. Despite the arrival of Roberto Baggio for a world record transfer fee, Juventus achieved little success as they only managed to win the 1993 UEFA Cup. Ahead of the 1994-95 season, Juventus appointed Marcello Lippi, and his first season as manager was a successful one as he guided them to their first SerieA title since the mid-1980s, as well as the Coppa Italia, and also led them to the Champions League title the following season by beating Ajax on penalties after the match ended in a 1-1 draw. Following their European success, the club decided to get highly talented players such as Zinedine Zidane, Edgar Davids, and Filippo Inzaghi, as they won the 1996-97 and the 1997-98 SerieA titles, as well as the 1996 UEFA Super Cup and the 1996 Intercontinental Cup. It is also worth adding that Juventus reached the Champions League final in 1997 and 1998, but lost to Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid respectively. In 2001, Lippi returned to the club after an almost 3-season absence, after the dismissal of his replacement Carlo Ancelotti, and again brought in big names such as Pavel Nedved, David Trezeguet, Lilian Thuram and Gianluigi Buffon, helping the team to 2 more Scudettos during the period of 2001 to 2003. They were also part of the first All-Italian Champions League final, which was played at Anfield in 2003, but lost to AC Milan on penalties after the game ended in a 0-0 draw. By the end of the following season, Lippi was appointed as coach of the Italian national team. In 2004, Juventus appointed a very strict manager in Fabio Capello and helped the club to add more SerieA titles to its name. In 2006, one of the most scandalous periods in football history occurred, as Juventus were among 5 clubs linked to the Calciopoli scandal, which they were accused of match fixing. And the club was stripped of its 2005 title, and the 2006 title was assigned to Inter Milan, and Juventus were placed at the bottom of the league table and relegated to Serie B, which resulted to several key players leaving the club. However, other big names such as Gianluigi Buffon, David Trezeguet and Pavel Nedved chose to stay and helped the club return to SerieA, and youngsters from the youth team were brought into the first team, as they quickly bounced back and gained promotion the following season, with Gianluigi Buffon also winning the World Cup during that same time. In 2007, they returned to SerieA and appointed Claudio Ranieri as manager. After an unsuccessful spell, Ranieri was sacked and replaced by Ciro Ferreira, and after another unsuccessful managerial spell, Ciro Ferreira was sacked and was replaced by Alberto Zaccheroni, but was only able to lead the club to a 7th place finish in 2010. Ahead of the 2010-11 season, Andrea Agnelli replaced Jean-Claude Blanc as club president and immediately replaced the sporting director and manager with Giuseppe Marotta and Luigi Del Neri respectively. But Del Neri was unable to improve the team's fortune and was dismissed and replaced by fan favorite Antonio Conte, fresh from winning promotion with Siena. In September 2011, Juventus moved to the Allianz Stadium. Antonio Conte took the club to new heights as they went unbeaten for the entire 2011-12 SerieA season, as they smashed everyone to win the Scudetto and had the best defensive record with just 20 goals conceded. In the 2013-14 season, they won their 3rd consecutive Scudetto with a record of 102 points and 33 wins, and that was the 30th official league championship in the club's history. In the 2014-15 season, Massimiliano Allegri was appointed as manager. During his time, he continually led Juventus to the Scudetto on a yearly basis and even took the team to 2 Champions League finals with almost 2 different squads against Barcelona and Real Madrid respectively. But sadly, he didn't win any of them. After completing their 7th consecutive Scudetto, Juventus broke the bank to sign the Real Madrid superstar and 5-time Ballon d'Or winner Cristiano Ronaldo for $112 million in a bid to finally win the Champions League. After an 8th consecutive Scudetto, Massimiliano Allegri was sacked due to a disappointing Champions League exit to Ajax Amsterdam and was replaced by former Napoli and Chelsea manager Maurizio Sarri ahead of the 2019-20 season. But despite winning the club's 9th consecutive Scudetto, he was sacked by the club after his team's failure to beat Lyon in the Champions League round of 16. On the same day of his sacking, former Juventus player Andrea Pirlo was appointed. An appointment which raised many eyebrows due to the fact that Pirlo has no senior managerial experience, and so far this season, his team has been reliant on the 36-year-old Cristiano Ronaldo for goals, and were recently dumped out of the Champions League by Porto, and might not be able to reach their 10th consecutive Scudetto this season.